Yeah, fresh fish, yeah.
My work,
Yeah, pasta, looking fresh, perfect.
and then little by little, I'm like, and so I kind of played that card of like, everyone in my work was like, well, if you do have a show, let me know. And I never played that card, I never played that card, and I was like, yeah, so some people, like, about half, I don't know, there was 10 people there, about 5 did. Like for my work. But then there was still, John brought some people in, and so like, I would say, 35. And then other times, I mean, there's 25 minutes before, right? So, and I bought a card machine and a cash box. So you can have like a guy at the door, and a stamp for the hand and all that stuff.
I'm kind of thinking about that
One
as well. That would
tea.
be a good
Yeah.
investment.
Do you need sugar and milk?
It's worth,
Yes.
let me show you, like, it's worth getting, it's like,
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No,
I did that once before.
I mean, do what you want.
we have cash on the table, and we have a card machine.
How's it going? How are you?
It's all in cash.
Yeah.
I'd like to do good.
Been out and about this weekend.
I mean, it's up to you, but like, so this is cost me,
Now we have the opening of
the thing I like about it is
the
it's
festival
one
there,
that
the Film Fest. If you can make it to come over, it's a nice
Like they also exist on this side.
gate cinema. Everything will be gate. You know where?
That's still being renovated.
Yes, yeah. It's completed. It's done.
Well, they finished.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
We are on the 15th now, onwards until the 22nd.
When I was doing the car sales,
There's also one premiere movie which is very, let's say, even with the situation now, is related to Palestine, the ghost of Beirut, then another one, Logan Marmara, both related to the situation, so they are supposed to be powerful. But then, other than that, many good movies. Even selected Chilean represented for the Academy Awards in the West.
We practiced
Viewing panel members. Yes. Yes. But just I met a couple of times. Organizer of the festival. Speaking.
That's great.
We like each other, but then of course met a couple of times and had even proper opportunities, and chat, speaking.
Do you have to kind of do critical evaluation? Like, do you have to speak about the films and stuff, or are you just writing?
So the process has been from May, June. I have watched pretty much many short movies, especially shorts, giving a break, and then writing 2-3 lines why I liked it, let's say, the topic, something really kind of direction which was interesting. Yes, so from the 15th, yeah.
15th. Great.
because you need to like watch how it is with your friends and your work.
So I started with the shirts from me. Then I went all the Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Japan, Palestine, and then I focused for, because the two directors told me Northern Ireland, UK, Scotland, and 12 per nation.
Wow, that's
Yes, yeah.
And then
But
there's
watching movies for me,
Have you a pen?
I need this one, I'm afraid.
That's okay.
by the way, great. Okay.
Thanks very much. Okay. Hello, people. It's not.
Hey, Robbie.
Give me a sec there.
You're okay. We're going to get started now in a sec.
And now I was thinking we would start the Oxygen Festival at 15th December. So this Friday,
Give me a little sound check there.
Hello, 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 hello.
Nothing happening in the room.
It doesn't sound good. No. I think maybe there was a switcheroo with Pam.
Try it again.
Hello. Oh yeah, we're good.
All the movies.
All right.
There is a beautiful.
Can I have the room's attention, please? All right.
Yes, I've watched many movies. I'm part of the viewing panel of many states.
Can I get a little sound check?
Yeah. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. I think it's okay.
It's up Matt.
Yeah. All right, people, poets, pilgrims, everyone who's made it here, online and in person, we're going to get started. So hope you're all having a nice cold, yes. All right. I'm going to just wait for you to settle down there now. Yeah. Well, so look, we're at the 692nd Ovale. Yeah. Woo! Yeah, we clap. Yeah, we're a live audience. We clap. Yeah. Okay. So if you haven't been to Ovale before, the night's broken up into a few different parts. So we're going to start with the 5-word challenge, which I'll explain in a moment. We'll have a little break then, and we'll have our guest poet, Don Paterson. We don't think, oh yeah, he's here. Sorry. And then afterwards, we'll have our open mic. So the 5-word challenge, I'll just explain how that works. You, the audience, and online, will give 5 words, which you'll then have 15 minutes to write a poem with. So yeah, can we start rolling in the 5 words? Anyone got a word? Conspicuous. Film.
We've got discombobulating flight in June.
Whoa, the online coming in hard.
Yeah.
I'm just going to...
Discombobulating.
Are we allowed to modify it? Make it past tense? I think we are. Yeah. So discombobulate, discombobulated, spacer. Okay.
We had blue and flight here.
You can throw in spacer if you want, but it's not official. All right, I have the 5 words now. All right, I'm going to give them to you again. So we have conspicuous, film, discombobulated, blue, like the color. Oh, and we have spacer. It actually made it onto the list. I was too busy talking and writing at the same time. I was being a spacer. It's kind of like to take something apart. So like if you had a doll and you took off its arms and its head and its legs, it's a discombobulated doll. Did you get it? Yeah. All over the place. Okay, yeah. You can make it past tense. Yeah. Either. Yeah. Conspicuous. Standing out. He had a conspicuous demeanor. He was a bit like he was standing out.
He was conspicuous in his bright pink suit. Yeah. I'm not sure about the. I'm not sure about the heads and the arms missing. Of Barbie or whatever. Discombobulated is confused.
Okay.
Confused.
That was my image of it, but maybe that's wrong. Okay. All right. Get ratings. Joy. Once more. Okay. So conspicuous, film, discombobulate, blue, and spacer. Anyone not know what a spacer is? It's someone who's kind of like vacant or like kind of checked out or misses things or a bit of an idiot.
And also it's a thing you use for spraying your vinegar, you have your spacer. You can spray it, make it easier to take it in, you put your chamber on your spacer.
And if you stretch your ear, you have a spacer as well. I have one.
Yeah.
Do a wash off when I'm not. That's also a spacer.
A washer.
Yeah, because it takes up space and you're not in the end of the thread.
Yeah.
You call that spacer.
It's the technical thing. All right. I'm going to let you do it. Any tense. It's not confined. It's a trick.
Excuse me.
Okay, people, just gently bringing you back into the room. So we've had a good few minutes to put a poem together, and let's start things off just to take the first leap, but I can't win, unfortunately.
Seventh time.
No. Even though I was sleeping with the judge last night, I still. Okay, so it's a bit mad, but here goes. The doctor told me I'm having a poem. 9 months from now. And all this time I thought I was just a conspicuous spacer. I watched the ultrasound play like an art house film. My poem somewhere in that true blue nebulous darkness. I can feel it kick. Right in the liver. The end rhymes nestled in my ribs. I can't wait for the day for the words to emerge in one discombobulated spurt. Thank you. Okay, so if anyone's feeling ready, the mic is all yours. Oh, and if I haven't met you before, maybe just let me know your name as well. Go for it. What's your name? Tom. Okay. Big round of applause. Yeah.
All right, so I just call this one A State of Grace. A spacer with a mic, cop on conspicuous by absence. A putrid film of demagoguery disperses. Framed, packaged, fronted and farmed out of every sensory orifice with slick sophistication. Nostalgia sometimes hits. Maybe there's a blue pill. Turn on, tune in, drop out. Sweet assisted state of grace descend on me. Oh, beatific discombobulation, save me.
Very good, Tom. Yeah, we got Dean. Round of applause for Dean.
I've never actually done the 5-word challenge, I don't think. As long as I've been here. Maybe we'll see why. Well, the blue movie, as my grandfather called it, was not at all what I expected. Sundays he'd take me down to see a dirty film. That is, after he'd rack up a few lines on the cistern for both of us. He'd give me the bigger one with a wink. Don't tell your mother. Muss my hair. By the time we got there, we were spacers. The ticket man eyed my 6-year-old face closely. You sure your granddaddy is up to this? Conspicuously so, I answered. All right, he said. We got some popcorn and sat down. The bodies blurred on the screen, discombobulated figures wrestling colour to the ground, angels rising like sick in my belly. I was wasted. I said, "You're the best, Grandad." "Who are you?" he stammered.
Thanks very much, Dean. We're going to go into our online universe, and we have Pam.
Okay. All right. Blue was the film glazing the glass, discombobulating mother and child. Black thundering smoke, the spacer between mother and child. Bomb blasted heartbeats, discombobulating mother and child. Blue was the film glazing the glass, conspicuous between mother and child.
This is for Frank Toomey, who passed away last night. He was a very well-known figure in Cork. You stare into the distance, following the blue flight of the night crows behind your blind, gazing through the haze of the film on your iris, discombobulated circuits firing out of tune. Tell me the story of your stroke with and then and then and. Some would call you a spacer, off your face now on pink dreams, your mouth wide open, gasping for air from the last third of your lung. Your conspicuous laugh still flicking through your face as you praise the poppies for the bliss before the bliss. Rest in peace.
Hi, this poem is called The Evening Lighthouse. Blue was the color of the symphony. The eyes of the lighthouse were penetrating a conspicuous night. The night was the perfect spot for a noir film with Humphrey Bogart. The smokes of the cigarettes were easily discombobulated by naughty desires. The scent in the blankets was the only spacer left. Disappeared like a lost lullaby. Thank you. Thanks.
We have Jeff Cotterill online.
Okay, there we go. I saw blue film today, oh boy, about a spacer who was so confused. He was discombobulated by sex. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to screw. And yet he still remained aroused. The rise in his trousers was conspicuous. But still the women laughed and laughed. His confidence had to fade. Now he couldn't get it up when all the porno music played. They could not turn him on. That's as far as that got. Little help from me.
Very good, Jeff. Anyone else online? Oh, we've got someone in the room. We've got JJF. Round of applause for JJF.
This poem is called Crispy Bacon. The senior policeman said to the rookie, "Look, see, I'm telling you, there's a trick to this. Scan the sea of faces and tell me which one looks conspicuous." As they waded into the crowd, someone cried out quite loud, "Blue pigs! You think you're so tough and big?" A tomato darted cleanly through the air, splattering in the rookie's cleanly parted hair. He looked discombobulated. The vegetable or fruit had gone on a journey, 50 meters lobbed across the pavement. The senior cop saw the perpetrator. She looked like a waster, a spacer. He gripped his baton and said, "Don't get this on film," as he started to beat her around the head.
The name of the film I could never remember. I was convinced it was true. Discombobulation was sweeping the nation. The general situation was blue. Conspicuous in his affectation, the spacer returned from the park in post office, pub and in station. The morning, the noon and the dark.
All of your permission.
This was in my head coming in round the city hall in the car, and I started writing feverishly. Myself and Antonio were wondering about writing. So it kind of sidetracked into what we were saying. So suffice to say, my friend is Ali Hennessy, and he wrote this incredible show called Letters to the Front, and I was determined to go to the show, having missed it in Kilkenny. My friends were trying to go too. We managed to get there in a taxi, but they tried walking. So this is kind of the story. Razzle dazzle Dublin all aglow. Hayden went himself to Ollie Hennessy's show, and Lavery and Yates and Warhol to see. Flying past Trinity with my Bobby McGee. Double-decker bus blazing, Armageddon on sin. Lebanese taxi driver averting to Smithfield. By the Brazen Head to North Frederick Street. Blue welcome from the boys in blue. 30 riot police. Discombobulating, diverting with feral cunning, duck spacers and parkas and black scarf saluting. No show on, said they, but shows must go on for yous. Oblivious to the carnage, we'd a parallel universe, full house. We were herded out the Scout, army on standby to evacuate. Hadn't clueless how to go, tripping over stolen shoes discarded. Conspicuous by our Gatchin accent like a blue to Z movie film, skirting down black alleys, junkies cutting deals and lines. A throb head to toe after return to Dundrum, dystopian hour of walking, Jesus, Christmas, Odyssey undone. That was it.
This one is titled Damage Reel. A frame by frame, staggered, animated, waddling man headed towards a corner shop On the brightest day of the year, where everything is blue, sapphire, royal, navy, and turquoise, sky, posters of movies. In the window, overexposed to UV. Light. Sun. The discombobulated man stares at the frames outside of his home. His hand searches the conspicuous bulges next to his pocket for too long. Pulls a spacer, eagerly plunges it in the slit of the vending machine, and
We've got Massimo coming in online.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Always an honor to be here. To think I have to be a mystic to see magic is ridiculous. The miracles of life are not hidden, but conspicuous. I do not have to be a dreamer or a spacer to know I do not know enough to not believe in something greater. The mind is so marvelous, but also loves to complicate. Attempts to reassemble only tend to discombobulate. I spent my life thinking, but discovered nothing new. My only answer to why is the sky blue is 'cause it's blue. You may say it's sunlight mixed with hydrogen and oxygen, but I say it is film of the eye light I caught it in. Thank you all so much.
These images are discombobulated, like open cuts made across a film reel. The cinema projector blinks blue. We are waste of the spacer generation. In the dimness, living in the darkness, we talk over the movies or smooch behind the seats. Her lips were my spotlight. To a conspicuous hush comes up. The lights come on. My arm was numb around her shoulders. Sorry, but we didn't care. It was 2004 and it's long gone. Discombobulating how time crawls. Yet I just left the past around the corner. The cinema picture house is a ghost town now, as I think of the ghost of her. Thanks.
Okay. We have Tomas O'Rourke coming in from Zoom.
Hi, I think there's one or two ahead of me in the queue. Is that right?
Who did you see?
I thought there was one after Massive. Well, I have to go now, but just make sure I'm not skipping the queue. That's all.
I don't think you are. I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a million. Hi. So this one is called Turning. All filmed in each other's eye. He sitting by the swimming pool wormhole. They on the edge above, discombobulating him in their waiting. Book in hand, he is whiling the day away in a nested corner of limestone. As they whisper and glance at him, he thinks they assume him to be a spacer, which is true, as they hew to the blue of arc and sea alike.
Okay. Coming in again hot is Matt Mooney. Are you?
Now, here we go. Right, thank you very much.
Very good.
Home is flight. Now, when you're on another flight into Egypt, since Gaza's south is no longer safe, as they were told by the Herodian, whose reprisal for invasion has become the slaughter of the innocents. You do not want to be conspicuous under any circumstances. While drones are out to discombobulate and disembowel you, anything resembling human movement, and when out of the blue means fire and brimstone down upon your head, suddenly you are as if you are part of a crowd scene in a film from bombarded off the face of the earth. And if you are left to live, you just sit there, be you man, woman, or child, struck down, half dead, feeling for your body parts, looking at what's left of your world like a spacer, shell-shocked, dazed to death.
That one. The siren has stopped in spaceship Ovale, letting thinkers think, spacers make space, musing over the word blue, the blessed burden of the blue. I love the word blue. It shapes the mouth, names a film, it's slightly discombobulating. I sit here conspicuously not writing.
Good. Yeah. Next up we have Catherine Rowland.
This is called Orbiting 2023. It is Christmas time again, and I find our chance encounter discombobulating in the bright lights of Smith's and the shine from your recently veneered teeth. You used to look like Hannibal Lecter in the film Silence of the Lambs, but now with your conspicuous hair transplant and searing blue contacts, you look like Bradley Cooper. All gifts from Santa, you quip, as you climb aboard the mothership that is your ex-girlfriend. Spacer, I say. And you reply, takes one to know one.
Any last poems? Poets, I should say, writers. Okay, I think that might be it. So very, very hard to judge, and it isn't actually me judging, it's kind of the poetry gods, and you know, I tap into them. So like when I was saying earlier that I can't pick myself, they weren't even cheering for me, so that's why. But yeah, look, work was cut out for me, but I think like I think it was Phil Spillane for that I'm hearing strongest. Yeah. Yeah, it was a profound silence in the room, and I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, silence can be louder than clapping. Yeah. Okay. Woo, go on, Phil. We're going to read it again.
Thank you. I was going to clean this up anyway because I think there's something in here. I never even did this in the cinema. Great poems, by the way. Thankfully, I have a phone this time, and not all my sheets are falling on the floor like the last time. If anyone was here, it does happen. To me. Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much, everyone. These images are discombobulating, like open cuts made across a film reel. The cinema projector blinks blue. We are waste of the spacer generation. In the dimness, living in the darkness, we talk over movies or smooch behind the scenes. Your lips were my spotlight to a conspicuous hush. The lights come up. My arms are numb around your shoulders. Sorry, but we didn't care. It's 2004, long gone, discombobulating how time crawls. Yet I left the past just around the corner. The cinema picture house is a ghost town now, as I think of the ghost of you. Thank you.
I'm not doing my job as an MC right here. There's actually the 4 books that are awarded to Phil. We have the 5-word anthology. We have Howl, which is got a few writers from this room, I think, in it. We have a book by one poet in the room, Catherine Ronan, Elemental Skin, out now. And then we have a book by Jerry Murphy and John McCarg, which is also brand new. Illustration. No, he didn't draw them. Someone drew them and he did the writing. Yeah. Anyway, well done, Phil.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to take a break now. So I have the list for the open mic. So if you want to get your name down, come up and let me know, or put your name on it. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, babe. Okay. I thought he was in person. Okay. Do you want me to tell him, talk to him on the mic?
No, I just think if you. Already. It's okay. How are you?
Good. You're high up on the list.
Oh, no, don't worry. I wasn't going into it.
My wires were all crossed.
Yeah, let's see. We all picked up on
That was a bad
yeah, bit of crack. What? Where what this?
This side here.
Oh, this side. Actually, I'll read it.
The end of your I'm trying to find a way back to this place.
Unique exercise where you're sort of like that kind of thing. I can't imagine it. I I like that quote as well. I might keep that for someone else. I think it's interesting. I think I tapped into a life in the little boy that someone else feeling. You know, someone else had that life for a day. I go to sessions in the cinema. Taking these messers in the cinema, you know what they're. Yeah, that's what I was trying to sound interesting. I take movies seriously. And I told this person in the video, his childhood straight. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess generally, I was trying to tap into.
That's it.
Long time ago.
I know. We were actually.
No, we were all up and down.
That's
when
they grew up. When they grew up.
Oh, taxi the
Yeah, exactly. When they came into the big bad world, you know, when we were kind of comfy entering the world.
And then I haven't really been back since.
Yeah, they have it now, but still, it's that's going to be a slight part of the generation.
The thing that's the thing, like usually you have.
But I remember you did home essentially. I've heard that we're sitting at home over last month.
You're like so tired from the night before. That is, you want some but then they come back on you again on the 26th. Like
you know, sometimes you do a city hall, you don't want to city hall.
Yeah, she's there.
The person in that home.
I'm happy you're here this year. For work, I won't have to
I got the howl as well. The howl was fantastic. I'd love to get like the Christmas tree. I just came downstairs to see my friends. I came into it and I just saw chaos all around the square. Kids everywhere, fire trucks, playing Santa Claus with fire trucks, people on tractors coming around with Christmas lights all over them. It was great. It was discombobulating. It was like taking one apart to bar, I think it makes sense.
Even today.
I'm going to use that word anyway. Someone's doing that person may remain his commitments. Or maybe come out of the blue. Yeah. Just grab it. You can use the words forever.
and not discombobulated. It is what it is. Yeah. You sometimes you can hide the words in the poem, but discombobulating is impossible to hide. Yeah. And like, even though you might take a good history with it, it is what it is. Yeah. It's such a mouthful.
Actually, we're talking about maybe breaking it down somehow, but the problem is there's Protestants that like Jews too related. You can work with that. You can cut it with
I got it right. No.
It's very quiet.
Yeah.
I can go home early.
Yes.
Early sleep.
She sometimes breaks up the word.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi,
I'll go first.
Yeah, I was saying that you were cutting some What did you do? I kind of know,
You're okay for another minute? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, okay.
My alternative that I learned experience with that.
Because I didn't pick up when I first read it. You remember when you read it again?
because basically you're able to
Ah. All right, people, poets, people. We're going to get started again there now. So I kindly ask that we all wrap it up a little bit with the conversations. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second part of the night, which is our guest poet. But we have a few announcements to run through before we move into that. So we'll just start with a little kind of reminder. So Ovail aims to maintain a safe space for writers and all attendees, both online and in person. We subscribe to the Art Council's Equality, Human Rights and Diversity policy, and we ask participants to report any offensive behaviour to Ovail. The 11th Five Words International The 11th Five Words International Poetry Competition continues, with the words changing tomorrow at 12 p.m. You get a quick little sneak preview if you want to start writing now. The judge for that will be Theo Dorgan. So the words coming out onto the website tomorrow are between, page, peat, small, and city. So that's between, page, peat, small, and city. Or in French, entre, page, charbon, petit, grandville. For our French listeners. Irish, idir. I can't remember. What is it? Okay. What's page in Irish? Lachnach. Peat.
Moen.
Torf. No? Moen. Small, biog. And city, Cahar. Oh. You're gone in Irish. False. Lanarike. Please be aware that this event is recorded and will be available to revisit as an MP3 podcast and on video via Ovail's website, social media and Vimeo channels, vimeo.com/Ovail. The featured guests for our first fortnight event on Monday, 8th of January, Sarah Barnsley coming in via Zoom, Dara Fleming in person. All are welcome to attend in person or online. Couple of little other things going on. So we've Sling Slang at Maureen's next week, Wednesday, 20th of December, with special guest our own Kieran McCartan. Thank you to everyone who kindly has offered donations online. For those in person, the donation jar is right there under the festive horse's head. So if we could start moving that around. Ovale greatly appreciates any donations, and yeah, give what you can if you're 50 euro. Okay, so we'll move on to our guest poet, who is Don Paterson. He's coming in via Zoom. That Don? I see him Don there. Okay. So Don Paterson is the author of numerous works of poetry and non-fiction. His writing has won many awards, including the Whitbread Poetry Prize, the Geoffrey Faber Memorial Prize, the Costa Poetry Award, among many others. Forward Prize, T.S. Eliot Prize twice. Really illustrious career. He was awarded the Queen's Gold Medal in Poetry in 2009. He's a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. For many years taught at St. Andrews. He's from 1997 to 2022. He was the poetry editor at Picador. He lives in Kerrymuir, Scotland, and his most recent collection is called The Arctic by Faber and Faber. So big round of applause, full of us, for Don Paterson.
Hi folks, can I just check that you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, fantastic. Oh, we're right, bye. We're halfway there. So it's lovely to not be here. I'd prefer to be there, but it's nice to half be there, or whatever this counts as. This will never feel normal, you know. But I'm waving from Edinburgh here. I'm sitting in the wee office at the back of the house in Edinburgh just now. I joined your event a little earlier and was discombobulated would be the word that I would use initially. And I thought, well, this is a classy open mic, but by God, the word discombobulated has gone viral in Ireland recently. So, and then I slowly cottoned on to the fact that this was part of your writing challenge. So I'm just getting myself up to speed with what's happening. I should confess that the writing challenge is usually that part of the dream where I wake up screaming myself, so which is why I didn't join you even earlier. Otherwise, I would have put myself through it too. But bravo, that was really wonderful and enjoyable. I think the plan is that I'll read for about half an hour, and I'll leave a wee bit of time for some questions at the end. I hope that sort of roughly accords with your own expectations.
That's right.
And normally, if I could see you, I would decide on the hoof what to read. But because I can't really make out the whites of your eyes, I'll just have to kind of guess as to what you might like. I'm suffering from a sober disadvantage here as well, I should say. So that may affect my choice of material. But because I'm very far away, I might also take the opportunity to inflict some brand new stuff. And as much as all I have to do is unplug the computer and I'm out of here. So it's just so I might inflict that on you for the first time, if that's okay. But I'll start with a couple of poems from the most recent collection, which is this. Can you see that? Maybe it's backwards. I don't know. It's called The Arctic, some poems at the start were written in memory of my dad, who died about 4 years ago of dementia. As increasingly so many of our parents do these days, as we seem to maybe live a wee bit too long sometimes. But and my dad was a musician, and some of those poems are concerned with the fact that a cliche about dementia, which turns out to be perfectly true, which is music's the last thing to go. You know, the tunes were the last things you could remember. And in fact, he had a whole mnemonic system worked out. If you could name a year and he could tell you what guitar he was playing that year. So I would just say 1967, and he would scream Epiphone, you know. And he had this, even though he couldn't remember our names, he was able to recall, sort of, an awful lot of songs towards the end. His last coherent sentence was actually, Alexa, play Lyle Lovett. True story. Not quite his last words, but last sentence. So my dad played country music in Scotland. He played country and traditional Scottish music, but he was a brilliant accompanist, and there was no kind of last round Sinatra, however bad, that he couldn't seem to make sound really, really good, and often much better than they deserved to. He just seemed to know where the voice was going to go somehow, and he was able to follow it with his guitar. And this, I'll start with this thing. It's a fairly lightish poem, given the subject, which is addressed to the worst singer I ever heard my dad accompany in Kirkintilloch Social Club. The song was Una Paloma Blanca, for the record. So it's not mentioned. Anyway, on sounding good. Sir, know this, that you were utter shite in the Kirkintilloch Social Club that night, when at the beginning of your next of kin, you rushed the stage and counted yourself in, resolved to give it laldy, your best shot, all you had, and more that you did not, and a number you'd pinpointed in advance with a misplaced yet granitic confidence, and a mondegreen of 2 words which belonged to the chorus of a wholly different song. And yet my father, on your 1, 2, 3, took one breath to exhume your opening key, then shadowed you as with Apollo's harp, through your ascent from E flat to K sharp. But you barely heard the man with the guitar who guided you towards the final bar and off into the safety of the wing, like the Dalai Lama gently shepherding a drunken wasp towards an open window. Nor as you reached your bestial crescendo did you see just how his providence had lent the guise of logic to each chance event, a velvet tray of right made for the wrong that was the alien spanners of your song. He did all this because he had an ear like the sea that raised him, open, true, and clear. So on that night, as every night, he chose to make you sound good, or good at least to those who loved you. And since he had love to spare, your knowing this was neither here nor there. Sorry, you misinterpreted that. I wasn't like, I will now pause heavily until you clap me, or I'll not read any more. That was me looking for the next point there, so it's don't feel obliged to clap this one, obviously. Sorry about that misunderstanding. Well, I don't understand that convention of not clapping. It's quite funny, isn't it? These odd conventions that spring up. I mean, feel free, to. If you hear a metaphor that strikes you as particularly impressive and you want to clap halfway through the poem, I'm not going to stop you. So your applause is welcome. Thank you. I'll read this. I'll try and read this one. It's a poem called the Snabba, which is a nickname that my dad had for me when I was a wee boy. And I didn't understand for many decades late. And indeed, after he died, I kind of rumbled what the word meant. Anyway, Snabba. I hadn't heard the word in 40 years until then, at the ragged hem of sleep, just once in his bedside voice. That word only he would call me by, and only when I was sick or cried out from a dream. Why would he console me with it now? I'd put 3 whole years on that rainy month. His death seemed almost lost in all the trouble. Why so out of time? Although the dead don't know to keep the order of our days. But perhaps one doesn't ever really mourn those obliged to leave us by degrees. Our last tears are relief, if there are any. The blessing of a death, to take him clean, was denied that man of purely good intention, who left us through a puncture in his side, a slow leak hissing all that made him him. I will say so, back to the receiving dark from which it first had calved, then found its host. It was a stronger vessel than he needed. The sickness was a stair into a cellar where not one thing had edge enough to name, but the steps were shallow and he took them slow, so mostly I was dead to it, and dry-eyed, bar perhaps the last time he restrung his good guitar, and everything was backwards and upside down, and him weeping in anger. Oh, Dad. But otherwise, eventually he slept. If we discount that last astonishment I'd only seen before on the Just Born. Snaba. From before I could remember, a name so often mine I barely knew it, although all names are strange, so long unused. Back then, all I heard was the love in it, the way his father too had called it by the same Mayan's pet word, maybe from the Norse, meaning child or beloved one. The last time I was 16 and shivering and raving in the last bed in the ward when I thought they were all trying to kill me. Snaba, he'd said. Of course, now that it's all I have of him, it's so obvious I could laugh. Snaba, Sobol, that was all he was calling me, his own childhood Scots. And now the boy with the white hair and the white beard holds his knees and makes himself very small and round because now he is very cold and he has no father. Oh, God, love, thanks for that. I'll read a poem called The Winter Apple. It's fairly, it does what it says in the tin. It's about an apple, and it's winter. In it, a winter apple. Here, I got you one of those you like, those bewildered late bloomers, tough and small and sweeter than they've any right to be, as green as Eden, the red an afterthought, as if there'd been an hour left in the season to paint them all, and where the brush had swept the snow-white fruit below is stained with pink, as if your teeth had bled from biting it. It was hard enough to body itself forth with so few leaves to hide it from the frost, without it burning fuel on working out where its skin stopped and its flesh began. All that touched it shook its heart. It was that or it was nothing. Take it in your pocket for your long Sunday walk to eat by the loch with that lone jackdaw only you can talk to. I make no great claims for this little thing, but I promise only good will come of it. I'm feeling bold enough, far enough away enough to say a couple of new things. I'll read this stupid squib just to start off with, which was one of those commissions that you forgot you had, and I was reminded by the dedicatee a few nights before it was due, and it was for the BBC. And it was about the 100th. It was about the centenary of the founding of the BBC, and you were supposed to write something on that subject. And understandably, I think I'd forgotten about it. And I was reminded by my friend Denise Riley, who likes this kind of thing, I think, and I wrote a wonderful poem about the football pools for her commission, but. So I ended up writing something about I used to write really bad radio drama, and I was astonished to discover that people didn't really kiss in the radio; they just made wee kissy noises in the back of their hand. Which is it's a funny thing the first time you witness it. You seem like a game crowd from here. Can I request a bit of audience participation just for a laugh? See if this works. This might be a really stupid thing to do, but at one point I will pause heavily, okay? And at that point, I'd like you all, as one man and woman, to kiss the back of your hand as loudly as you can. Is that okay? Just make a noise. You know? I've never done this before, and I can't believe it's going to go well. But let's see how we go on. Kissing on the radio for Denise Riley. Actors faced with beat they kiss, lest kissing lead to awkwardness, cold sores, flu, or simply bed, will opt to kiss themselves instead. And thus the radio drama snog is how you tell just how a man precisely feels about his hand. For men, alas, will often hog this bit with, darling, would you mind? Or, come here, you? Or, I beseech. And in the well-timed plonker, find a way to silence her mid-speech. They broach the pop shield with the back of their left paw and plant a smack with lots of extra wet and suction to be dialed down in post-production. Now, thank you. Right, where was it? Now, hearken to the glowing tank. What is that sound? The crunch of locks? A horse with an apple? That final yank before the toilet sink unblocks? Oh dear. Real kisses we efface. We lock our mouths down tight like rubber seals on docking ports in space, where nobody can hear you slobber. Now, pucker up. Can you resist a cheeky dorsal level test? Ha ha, loser. No, I'm joking. But wasn't that a touch heartbreaking in its sad, squeaky isolation? Imagine the compounded shame of doing something quite so lame before a whole attentive nation. Now play that little squelch again, and the old-style tape delay your brain keeps around for such short measures as it would play back at its leisure. And as the quality degrades and your auto ombras gently fades into the Atlantic churn, to which all smackers must return, ask yourself, what clever foley could honour, say, that secret Santa who blew your mind beneath the holly? A ring pulled on a can of Fanta? Would you brick a ripened peach for that white hour in late December you made out on the stony beach? The sound's the last thing you remember. So thesps, when scripts call for a kiss, just say your line and pause like this. And trust the thrill of the dead air. We all know what to slap in there. That got enthusiastically autoerotic at one point, though. That was no mere squelch. But maybe it was amplified on the Zoom, but that was finally deafening. I'll read another couple of new things. It sounds like a rather esoteric premise, and it's maybe so. But the thing I'm working on just now is there was a series of riddles written by a guy who called himself Symphosius. I don't think that was his real name. A Latin poet, sort of only minor distinction. But it was a kind of they were kind of after dinner riddles. And they weren't very good, to be honest with you. And occasionally folk have translated them, and they're fine. They're a bit like the Exeter book riddles. There's of course a great Celtic tradition in riddling, but they're a bit like sort of Exeter book stuff. But the cool thing about them is there's 100 of them, and the subjects are great. So it's so what I've done, what I'm trying to do is write a poem for each of the answers to these riddles. So this is the collection itself is called the Enigmata, but they're just daft wee poems written on the answers to the riddles themselves. They've got nothing to do with the poems, really. So I'll read a few of these if that's all right. So these are some answers. First one's called Pen. Point to plane, point to line, behold the literal abstraction. Draw the quill from her left wing. I'm after some capillary action. Swan for broad and crow for fine. Eagle, no, for loose. For mine, an e-pen on an e-ink pad, much like my father's slate on slate. The first script wasn't law or lore or poem or prayer, but a plain receipt for what was placed in common store. The second, hawk. The reckoning is what we do. We keep the word, the books, the warrant ironclad. Hence the guild's first rule. All men will have a voice, but not a pen. This one's about a tile, at least that's the answer, is tile, as in roof tile. Tile. Once brought to earth, she'd hit a tree in fog. Dragons don't rot down like gulls or whales, but lie there, their own perfect effigies. Said one born to that rainy place, what scales of polished jet? So he took his spade and stole enough to make his little house invincible. Strike them right and they just pop out whole. Alas, the pink patch soon turned dark and wormy, so they stripped her bare and rolled her in a trench. But then the smell came, terrible as a dead army. The wells went bad and the harvest to the dogs. Later, camped in woods miles from the stench, a crone recalled the time they'd plucked a phoenix for its eternal self-igniting wicks, and then burnt the town to the ground. And by degrees, this led to the birth of the general principle. That's enough of that. There will be a lot of these one day, I hope. I'll read a poem from the book before The Arctic, which is has an equally bonkers premise. And the poems in Zonal are all derived from the first season of the Twilight Zone. I don't know if you know the old American TV series, the Twilight Zone, which was a kind of amazing, surreal thing that happened, sort of as the Cold War was properly getting underway. So it's an incredible, surreal, paranoid exercise. And the poems themselves are sort of autobiographical in some ways, but they're all based on one episode of the first season. But that's about as much as you need to know. So I'll read the first poem in the book, which was really an opportunity to write a poem called Death, which I've always wanted to do, and now I have achieved that. So Death, and it's about a guy who regularly encounters death. And death's a rough gig. Death. His trick, by which I mean the way he'd convinced you of his earnestness, was to actualize at some random and unpredictable post, unruffled, immaculate, like he'd been there all along, vaping at the turn of the stairs, taking a leak in the adjacent stall, or turning round from a seat in front of the empty matinee, saying, "Come on, been through this." And again, I'd get up and leave, and I'd mutter, "I'm not ready yet." And he'd say, "Okay, bud, I'll see you tonight," knowing we all got worn down by this in the end. Before they kicked me upstairs, I used to work in sales. I still have a case of free samples and an eye for an easy mark. One day, he was working through some genre cliches to keep himself amused, and I was closing the bathroom cabinet when I saw him at my shoulder. I shrieked, he cracked up laughing, I swung round, and we fell into the usual threadbare exchange. But I caught him running the back of his hand across my Pima cotton towels and sneak a sidelong look at my new Sonic toothbrush with more than just a casual interest. I noticed his Prada suit was a size too large, and his floral tea cologne was Tommy Girl, though it smelt pretty good on him. It was then I saw it, his weakness. I said, look, I'll do you a deal." "No deals," he says. "You know that." "Hear me out," I say. "It's legit. Give me another 20 years, and I'll kick you out. I'll be your go-to guy. I'm serious, knock down rates." He said nothing, but the sweat was forming on his upper lip and brow. So I got out the case and did my old routine, told him I'm practically giving this stuff away, though it was tough to see him so easily played, so easily reduced, so worried and frantic, me pulling out one thing after another, him suddenly wondering if he could afford it all, patting his pockets, wondering if I took plastic, wondering if he had plastic, what plastic even was. His arms full of all the cool new things he wanted, a black fedora, a snakeskin belt, the silk tie with a Mondrian design. But then realizing he was technically neither salaried nor self-employed, a slave to his work, he'd always thought, but really just a slave, hand to mouth, hardly ever in the same town 2 nights in a row, sleeping on couches between gigs, everything he wore lifted from the closets of the dead, everything he ate, whatever the dead had left uneaten on the stove after he'd walked him to the car. All he wanted was a night off, a table at Cleo's so he could work through the card and then go home to his own shit. Some old jazz on vinyl, a valve amplifier, a good espresso machine and a workout bike, and maybe a wife and kids too in time. But whenever he thought of them, or rather what they'd talk about round the big TV or the kitchen table as he made his famous chili, or the school gate after hockey practice, all he could ever think of was him delivering the bad news, as usual, the worst. Daddy, what do you mean I must leave with you now? Don't think for a second that Death loves his work. Even though I couldn't stop, we both knew there was no way he could pay for any of this stuff. I was holding back the tears for him. Who wants to see their own death fall to such a 2-bit hustle? In the end, I gave up. I hugged him. I said, it's okay, I'll go with you. Just give me 5 to get some things and say goodbye to folks. And he was fine with that, and so innocently grateful when I really did come back, carrying a near-new pair of brogues, a couple of good shirts, and a nice blue jacket that I reckoned would fit him well. And I could see in his eyes that, over the years, he'd lost more than a few of us this way, to this old play, and each of us had cost him like a life. So if I read a couple more poems, would that feel like about right? And you know, if you have any questions, I can, and they're easy, I can try and answer them.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll read one more from Zonal, and I'll read the last poem from the Arctic. Let's go over the page. It reads quick. It's about Lazarus. I've always been fascinated with the behavior of Jesus over the business of Lazarus, aspects of which are quite un-Jesus-like. I don't know what got. Well, I do know what got into his head. I think I would presume to guess. But anyway, so this is about Jesus and Lazarus. Lazarus. 3 days of death one can survive by the usual subterfuges. There's enough wind trapped in the whale, the morgue is cold enough to keep the rot from setting in, or you took enough food for the journey. Although nearly everyone will die anyway, the most determined will at least have a fighting chance, should they somehow get the call. And as we know, a few do. Your work here is not yet done, a voice will say, or we're awfully sorry, but there's been a filing error. 4 days, though, when you're finished. We know this instinctively. The acids or the worms or the bacteria will have started to eat you, and you begin to rot, and you lie back in the dark and accept your fate. Hence, Jesus tarrying for 2 days before he headed to Bethany, despite the desperation of the call from Martha and Mary that their brother was on the point of death. When Jesus finally rolled into town, Lazarus had already been 4 days in the tomb, and by anyone's estimation, well past saving. So when Jesus famously and tersely wept, it was not just because of the sister's pain, but the suffering he knew he'd have to inflict on Lazarus in contriving the spectacle. If he'd had Lazarus on his feet after a day or two, it would have been regarded as no more as your common garden miracle. But after 4, that's something. And foreseeing the chain of events, Jesus knew that if things were going to stay on schedule, the miracle had to be sufficiently triumphant. No Lazarus of the 4 days, no Palm Sunday, no plot to kill Jesus, no death, no resurrection. Note that even Jesus didn't risk an extra night in hell. This is a unique example of Jesus sacrificing the pain of another for his own self-advancement, and he knew that it was not forgivable. All this was indeed pretty rough on Lazarus. The hangover literally from hell apart, for weeks afterwards, he was still picking off the threads of muslin that stuck to him, with the sea that seemed to gather and cling everywhere, the gaps in his toes, under his nails, behind his ears. He was badged with bruises, and his skin was ghostly and creamy with a weird vernix of the restored flesh. When his wife wouldn't come near him, he assumed it was the taint of death. "What is it? The stench on me?" "No," she said. "The stench of the grave I can handle, and it's fading. And you've lost weight. And to be honest, you look younger than you have in years. And I've always had a thing about scars." "No, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. It's that I expected a whole new Lazarus. You're still a shitty git, still working the angles, still telling me what I think I want to hear. Husband, should getting back to your old self really be your goal here? You seem to be throwing away the opportunity." It was true. What kind of gift was rebirth into the same person? Besides, he'd actually been trying to change when he fell ill, to be less of a selfish prick and get fitter, walking rather than taking the donkey everywhere. He'd even improved his diet and cut out red meat, but he'd eaten some bad limpets and ended up with paralytic shellfish poisoning. Then Lazarus remembered what had happened on the fourth day underground. Having given up on any thoughts of return, he'd sunk into a boundless peace far beyond anything the word had once invoked. Lying there in the warm, enfolding darkness of hell, whose torments had been farcically overstated, he ceased to cling to life or hope for his return, and had lost all sense of his own boundary. He felt himself become one of the dead, his pronouns shift from I to we, and freed into that radiant collective. And then he realized that was what he'd brought back, the gem he'd loosened from the deep matrix of the earth. A dead man walking was a grand thing to be if you'd already died. Alive, but done with the fear of death, free from the disapproval of others that used to torment him daily, since he had no Lazarus to be protective of. And so he allowed the black, glistening jewel to grow inside him. He was still who he was, and could never deny or absolve himself of his old life. But he was also all that he was not, everyone and no one. And day by day, the timeless crypt grew inside him like a kind of vow. And because death is good and kind, by degrees he became a decent and honest man. I'll read one poem, and that'll be me. And this is a poem called August. From a part of my life about 20 years or so ago now. Did someone give the tree the magic words? 1 week of sun, then suddenly great bunches of ochre and orange drupes hung from the branches, so sweet already, half were holed by birds, or stuck with wasps too loaded to shoo off. But half of them were perfect and pristine, polished eggs of sunstone and citrine, and half was 40 times more than enough. What we couldn't eat, we stoned and froze, or did until the freezer wouldn't close, or left out on the wall for passing folk to sticky their hands with on their evening walk. The plum tree's buds had all come at once. But obviously this is a circumstance suboptimal for plum trees as for men, and it never really fruited right again. By winter, you and I were good as done. I crept round like a target of the state, killing lights and listening for the gate, while you cut down the birches for the sun, and rued it in an instant, guessing right that when the kids got back from school, they'd cry to see the windows full of empty sky, and we had to draw the blinds till it was night. But that one summer held us in its blaze, the spirals turning slow as galaxies in the boys' gold crowns, while high above their heads the girls leapt in the boughs like plum tree dryads, and the half-mad tree sowed fruit along its spreading arms, drunk as a father at a wedding, refilling and refilling his own cup, not giving a damn if it could keep it up. Thank you.
What? Can I use the microphone? Oh. Okay, technical issues. Don, that was a wonderful reading. Like it really felt like you came through to the room and like you're here with us, and it was really splendid. Yeah, big round of applause. So we have a little kind of Q&A session, and I've thought of some questions, and audience here more than welcome to ask some questions. So the first one, sorry, there's a little bit of noise in the room here. So the first one I was going to ask you, I was thinking about, is when would you know that a poem is finished? Like, you know, when you've been looking at it for a while, working on it, when would you know it's finished?
I think it depends on the poem. Some of them you just get sick of and you think that's enough, you know. And the other, you know, the old truth is that there's no hurry for this stuff. You know, it's just like so you might as well just wait until you get it right, you know. And I'm sure most of you know the story of how Elizabeth Bishop worked, you know, and she'd have a poem finished apart from one word that was missing in the middle of one line. You know, and she'd stick it in a corkboard in front of her desk, and it would sit there for 5 or 10 years until she got the word right. I mean, you might as well get it right. You know, it's there aren't really any deadlines with this stuff. So, but I suppose that's one of the reasons that, you know, one of the advantages of writing in form, at least with a bloody sonnet, you know, you're done with a thing when you've got up to 14 lines, or you know, or you completed the form. But I don't know. You know, it's yeah, I mean, I find increasingly that what worked the last time doesn't work the next time, and that you know, sort of every poem has its own genesis and own kind of generative narrative, and you have to just pursue it. You know, so every poem got its own tale, and some of them have been the work of 10 years. You know, it's not the constant work, but the occasional labor of 10 years, and others were completed in a kind of, you know, horrible night of just pulling a couple of overnighters and feeling like I was going to get the flu and die, you know, and everything in between. So I don't think there's any way, really, you know. There's that famous line about poems being abandoned, but I'm not sure that's true. I think that's a romantic fiction. I think you know when you're none. That's a terrible answer. Sorry, but it's
I have to think about. It kind of almost sounds like poems are their own like living entities, their own living creatures, would you say? Like after
I sort of follow. I mean, I follow Michael Longley in that. You know, he always used to talk about, you know, sort of it needed a kind of yin and yang. It needed a, you know, sort of a sperm and egg. You know, and it just and it grows up in your house, and you try to sort of look after it. I think you have to treat them as if they were. Otherwise, you end up imposing your own desires on them, and insisting that they be that. And they often don't want to be that thing. They often want to be something else. So the worst thing you can do to a poem is keep dragging it back to your subject matter. You know, that's why one tries to avoid good subject matter. I don't think there's any such thing. My rule is if I get a good idea for a poem, it isn't. And I should just run away. If I know what I'm writing about, it's usually bad. You know, it's just like whereas if I have a hunch or an itch or a line that I need to pursue and figure out where it's going, then it might be good. You know, but if I know what it's going to be, then everyone else will know as well. You know.
Did anyone? Thanks for that, Don. Did anyone in the room have any questions? Yeah, Antonio. Well, so Antonio asked, what inspires your poems? Could we have some quiet, please, Constantine? Thank you. So what inspires your work, Antonio? Oh, sorry, Don, Antonio asked.
I don't use the word inspiration because it happens so infrequently, and if I did use it, I'd be really depressed. You know, so inspiration didn't play a huge role in my work. I suppose what passes for inspiration is the bit that you get for nothing. You know, so I occasionally get lucky, and I'll get a phrase, or I'll get half an idea, or again two things that go together, and I don't know how they go together, but I know that the poem will help me figure out how. And that's, you know, and I suppose there are the traditional sources of inspiration, you know, which lead poets to live the chaotic lives that they lead. You know, those reliable sources of inspiration that we have that tend to hurt everyone around us. Yeah, I mean, as your man said, it's kind of yeah, it's kind of like flying your kite in a thunderstorm, and poets often elect to go out in thunderstorms, and it doesn't do their constitution or indeed their families much good. But but yeah, getting really screwed up is a good way, of being inspired. Having your friends and family die. Elegy. Elegy is another great source of inspiration for poets, of course. And you have to remember that sort of a friend is just a kind of inconvenience standing between a poet and a half decent elegy. So I wouldn't be friends with them. I'm joking. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think there are honestly more reliable if you're just looking for things to inspire you, then you just go out your comfort zone, do a geographic, go somewhere different, go to the zoo. That's what Rilke used to do. It was easy enough. Just go to the zoo. Not that we should be going to the zoo at all, of course. Zoos are terrible places, but watch David Attenborough. something nice.
Lovely. Any other questions in the room? Oh, yeah.
I was just curious, like, when you published your first book, was it just surreal to see your words in print, or like what was that process like to see it in your hand?
Could you hear that, Don? Do you want me to repeat?
No, you couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't hear a word at first.
No, I'll repeat it. So someone in the room was asking, what did it feel like to see your first book in your hands? Was it surreal or,
Honestly, it was, I think, maybe the worst case of post-Christmas letdown I've ever had in my life. Because I was so excited, and I thought, I'll get this book, and that'll be me. I'll be like, I want, I'll have such faith in myself, and and I'll be this most marvelous, holy, glowing object, and I can carry it everywhere, and be super confident. And it was like, it's like, oh God. The first thing that you do is traditional. It's a bit like a bird crapping on you. That you open it on a spelling mistake. That was the first thing I did. That you'd missed. But I now know that that's good luck if you do that, so I don't feel so bad. But it's so that was the first thing I did. And then I remember with the first book they'd accidentally screwed up the paper, so it was printed on something that looked like old-fashioned World War II toilet paper, like Izal toilet papers. You could not just see the poem in the back, but the poem through the other side as well. It was just like so. There was that. But in all honesty, the bigger lesson was that I realized that the only time I was going to feel like a poet was when I was writing a poem. It wasn't the book that was going to make me feel like a poet, and it wasn't doing a reading to you good folk that makes me feel like a poet. The only time you feel like a poet is in the act of writing. And that's the reason that I'd say, if you like feeling like a poet, and we all do, is drag that bit out. Drag it out to hell. Make that bit as long as you possibly can. In the knowledge that it's the person who has the patience to sit for a few hours longer looking at that line who gets the goods, who gets the really good poem. It's so much of it is about patience more than talent, and it's the one time you feel like a poet. And unfortunately, the book appears to confer that status on you. But I don't know. I'm sounding like a Calvinist here. It's just like it just increased my capacity for self-loathing, sir. But yeah, it was it was a chastening experience. Yeah, I now try to cultivate neutrality on those occasions.
It sounds like it's like you get to the Wizard of Oz and then you just see this little man behind a curtain.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Not you.
It was me. All along. I'm back. We have another question, yeah?
Does she enjoy editing?
Okay. Do you enjoy editing your work?
Editing my work?
Yeah, do you enjoy editing your work? Is what the last question was.
I don't think of I don't use the word editing of my own work. It's partly having worked as an editor. I think editing is what you do to someone else's work, but your own work, you're just writing it. You don't edit your own work. I think partly because words like rewrite and edit are predicated on an idea of error, and you haven't committed any error. The poem just isn't finished yet.
Yes.
So you're not doing anything wrong, you know. So you're not fixing it. It's just finding its way towards its final form. I would not use the word edit in the context of my own work. No, I think that's for someone else to come in with a kind of a editorial perspective, another pair of eyes, and to show you things that you can't possibly see because you're too emotionally close to the work, you know.
That's a lovely way to wrap it up, I think, is you being delicate with your own work and not editing, cold, clinical. Don, thank you so much again for your reading. It was really wonderful. We're going to be moving on now to the for a break, or are we going straight? Yeah, we're going to have a little break, but a huge round of applause. Thank you so much again.
Sorry, I can't be here.
We'll come over again sometime. If you haven't already signed the open mic list, come see me. All right. I think you might be maybe.
Hey Rob, how are Catch me there, Rob.
Yeah, I think that's the one. There's one that also is actually it's just because the power's gone out, you think it's running. And I love that the monsters that he got. Because what happens is that the power goes out in the street, and people don't know why. And they all come out, and they all blame the Russians, they all blame the aliens, and alien attack. They think all these things are happening, and the power just goes back on. You don't drink tea? You don't drink it? They're the monsters. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, it's great. The whole world is made in 20 minutes. The whole story.
Do you want concert pictures?
B7.
Jumped up there first year.
We're going to do it after this. I'm first up.
Oh no, I'll go after you so like you Oh Jesus, you're in the first, I'll go after you, musical interlude. Oh, is this too cheesy today? You know this one?
My sister just got a license.
My nativity song. Is it too cheesy for you? You know the song? It's very kind of. Why not? But it's room for the cinemas and you'll be pure. And I can introduce it a bit with my mother and father, the Pat's Burley and the like mince pies and the oven and bit of innocence, judge of innocence. Maybe a bit of innocence. Or the cynical, jaded, cynical Alice. Jesus.
Whole collection. He's giving you, what you call it, a craving for strawberries or craving for cinnamon.
He's trying to get me doing tricky cards. Are you married? Can't I married?
They just wake up and say, I want time, I want time. Really? I was told it meant ice cream. Some sort of ice cream. I don't know. I don't know. It's gone beyond me, really. Mozzarella cheese, I was told for another one.
Oh no, I'm happy for that. It just
Has your taste even changed? When your taste? It's surreal. It's surreal for me. Sorry, it's surreal for me. I have to play for it. I think we're all like you're looking concerned, going, this is not going to happen. This conversation, these guys don't understand. No, I actually practice. I come back to a lot of us practice. I used to fail before, but just keep practicing. Do you write that even try combining the words or? One thing you just said, you are not rubbish. Yeah. If you're under pressure. Yeah, I got you. Not Molly, St. Mary. there's some stairs right downstairs. Pressure so maybe give that a go. Yeah, exactly. You have your own space here. You don't have anymore. You don't have that dead inside. Press in and yeah, exactly. Exactly. That might help.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've been on it for a while now. No, but I met the people there one day. I'm actually and I wasn't doing that. I was just trying to. It's a project, a magazine that they are launching. They have like several projects that are always going on, and they basically every once in a while everyone that's based in Dublin, but they basically have to do it from all over the world. You have also other projects. So I'm thinking. A bit graphic, a bit, something. Not really what you film in this film.
I love you. It's like, right. After all that.
First, that's something that I'm, especially because I like books and the shape of which is kind of also influenced the way and that is like
But I can still submit to the that's what I mean. No, I won't submit to the competition. I might edit it all because try and herd those cats.
Okay. Okay, poets and people. Hope you had a nice break. We're going to get started again there with our open mic. So first up on the open mic, if we could have some quiet now and respect for the lovely poets. Our first poet is going to be Rab Urquhart.
No, she'll be right back. It's only stage fright. Are you here? So back in 1945, the first hardbacked science fiction book was released. It was written by a guy called A. Van Vogt. And A. Van Vogt had this idea. What he called it was called null A, and it was non-Aristotelian intelligence. And he blamed Aristotelian intelligence on hierarchy, on racism, on sexism, on war, on cruelty. And he said that as a race, as a human race, it was damaging to our collective mental health that we carried on behaving like this. So he proposed this non-Aristotelian intelligence. So there's a bit about that in here. But there's also something else that was kind of like bugging me at the time I wrote this, so I kind of mashed it up. And Mags is going to help me, so you right?
A chart notice with the rest of them.
I'm sorry. The map is not the territory, the word is not the thing it represents. Our sensations are not reality, but an abstraction of reality. Don't you love to kiss the Blarney Stone? Don't you hate to pay? Why you gotta pay? Anyway, it's a national monument. The laws of people will never be just until they are sane. Fear is a reaction of the living organism, not to threat but to the perception of threat. Don't you like to go to concerts at Slane Castle? Oh, the lovely countryside all around is private land. Analyzing the universe and its simple binary opposites, while necessary has limited value. The function of a tool can be inferred by its design. Think I go to Lismore Castle, I take my fishing rods, but no fishing on the Blackwater River, all the way to Yall. No two objects in the universe, no two events are identical. One or two objects in a class of objects is an individual. Thinking about Irish castles owned by English lords. What happened in the War of Independence? What happened in that war? Hang on, I have to turn my page over.
These improv blend.
A multivariate logic more accurately reflects the complexity of the universe. Such logic is called non-Aristotelian or nolly. It's a rejection of hierarchy, a rejection of racism, a rejection of sexism, a rejection of war. All the things that an enlightened society should be striving for. Thanks, Anne.
Oh, now who's going on next? Can we do the musical interlude? Well, is Karen is ready to go? Has Richard? Oh, do you want to do that? Okay. Just the little thing I was thinking of is in the middle of all the cynicism and the jaded pallet roofs that we're all sitting on. I just said I'd remember my childhood because the night of that riot, to try to get myself to wind down, I started remembering my mother and father around the table. It's just such a happy moment, you know. They work 364 days a year, and they ran plenty of businesses, but they locked the door on a Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and it was their night of delight. And everyone was back from everywhere, stuffed around the table, and there'd be the smell of the scent of the Thompson's mince pies in the range, and there'd be a saucer of Hennessy brandy punch ready for firing the plum duff, and there'd be a fine big pot of ham, and to be slurping and bubbling away with a big flagon of cider inside it, and a bodale of Guinness, and plenty spice. And she'd always do this. It was so cute. She'd reach for his hand and she'd catch a hold of it and she'd go in front of all of us. And he'd go, ooh la la, she's done mad about pas de la. And we'd all love that. So this is for the innocent times. Ooh la 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 la, she's done mad about pas de la. So this is just for the nativity song to make you all real pure and innocent for a moment. Okay. In a stable in a far-off eastern land, he tries to shelter her from desert wind. No welcome for the maiden child she's bearing, just cattle breathing close to warm the air for him. What kind of a world for our little one? Maybe a place where someone now will just hunt him down. A king who took each other mother's firstborn son. What a price, what a sacrifice for the Son of Man. And the wise ones lay their treasures at his feet. They had followed the herald comet from the east, and Melchior and Caspar, Balthazar had foretold this boy child's coming from the stars. What a journey to be placed upon this brave young girl. Way too soon for her, she's too tender and too vulnerable. But this child and her man they called the carpenter kept their baby safe in Egypt until their safe return. And now through starry skies, through a moonlit hill, to the shepherds and the lambs an angel calls. Gloria an eggshell says, Shalom al-Salam, Shwaya Shwaya Habibi. Peace on earth to all true men of goodwill. Peace on earth to all true men of goodwill. No wind.
Yeah. Before we go on to the whatever ensemble is about to come on here, we have to just get to someone online who's kind of urgent because they have to move. So could we please have Pam Campbell?
Thank you. I appreciate this. I'm going to be listening to y'all without my video on after this because I'm in a 3-day push to get out of a house. But here's my poem for tonight. Oh, first of all, I want to do a shout out to Paul Casey. This poem was birthed and worked in his creative writing class he does at UCC. Blood rooted. My marriage gasped its last breath in the dust, its decades-long withered roots anchored no more. I am newborn with second chance. Sorry? Can y'all not hear me?
Yeah, you can ignore that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to start over. Okay. Blood rooted. My marriage gasped its last breath in the dust, its decades-long withered roots anchored no more. I am newborn with second chance, sea-legged on unsteady ground.
I'm
Did-
sorry. Sorry,
Oh,
Pam. We're just going to have to ask someone to stop with the.
okay.
All right.
No,
Okay, Pam. Sorry about that.
no worries. Tell me when you want me to go.
You can start again. Okay.
Thank
Apologies.
you. No worries. Okay. Blood rooted. My marriage gasped its last breath in the dust, its decades-long withered roots anchored no more. I am newborn with second chance, sea-legged on unsteady ground. Did my mother wear pearls the day she left my father and me? She swells and ebbs in manufactured unsteady memory until she too is lost in the dust. Once the smell of a common soap swelled me back to her long, slender fingers, soaping pearled water drops on her skin. Would she root for me, newborn, or not? She did not soothe the cramps of first bleed swelling my 11-year-old frame, and did not mollify the newborn fundamentalism Eve's sin rooted as mine. My nipples were flat and hard pearls against my chest when she, booze unsteady, put me down in the woods and left me in the dust of her despair. When my newborn suckled my breast, warm against my skin, she pearled joy and wonder. A longing swelled for my mother, but she bitter dusted her invention of the past into the root of unforgiving demand. I, fetal curled, steady wailed my grief alone. When cancer bled its calling card, I thought of my mother with my cancer-taking kin, all of us body unsteady, with a broken tumor fighting pearl. My mother is dead 18 years, dust to dust claimed, in a silence I cannot break. In newborn shock at her gift I could not refuse, I howled, swell after swell after swell. I color my breast in cave drawings, 16 tattooed pearls, fairy dusted purple. A dancing white blue fire swells steady, amber feathers rising, blood rooted.
I'm so glad we got to hear that nice and clearly. It was beautiful. It really, really was outstanding. Okay, so up next, can we have? Did you want to do something? Catherine Ronan and what's your and Mags? Okay. All right, on we go. On y va.
So Mags has put music to my poem Bridget.
Thanks for Catherine.
Fantastic music, I might add.
There's no objection.
You do first, I do. We didn't consult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just get rid of my Okay, so it's in pretty the same key, so we're flying it. An honour to put Catherine's words to music. It's the second poem that as soon as I read it, I sang it as soon as I read it. And the other one is the one she wrote about Matthew. Her words are they really strike a chord with me. And they're deeply enjoyable. Cupped flame of sunbeams and snow, cosmic flower of renewal, cosmic power of renewal. Sap of oak tree rises to kiss your fingers. Spring tides bathe your feet.
sketched moon and fractured sun, the first flower of spring in a druid's fest, born between two thresholds, you hold the hand of our labors, our Lady of the gale. You tied magic ribbons and rags to your holy trees, sing songs over ancient rivers, protector of poets, smiths, and healers. We kneel beneath your mantle of stars. Bridget carried from Iona to Bethlehem. You inhale the dark, exhale the light.
Bridget, cupped flame of sunbeams and snow, cosmic power of renewal. Oak sap rises to kiss your fingers. Spring tides bathe your feet. Your sketched moon, fractured sun, first flower of spring in a druid's fist, born between two thresholds, you hold the hand of all labors. Mary of the gale, we tie magic ribbons and rags to your holy wish trees, sing songs over ancient rivers, protector of poets, smiths, healers. We kneel before your mantle of stars. Bridget, carried from Iona to Bethlehem. You inhale the dark, exhale the light.
Thanks.
Lovely stuff, Catherine, Nolan, and Mags. Thank you. Okay, up next we have Benjamin Burns, please.
I love out of tune pianos. They're great because, well, they're great for improvising on because you never know what note you're going to hit. And in September, I went to Electric Picnic with Strive Theatre and McBokra. And on the Sunday, I was out with Brendan listening to some bluegrass. It was kind of, all music happens at once in Electric Picnic. So everything's like coming at you from all directions. So while you're listening to one thing, you get like some techno here and some choir from over there. And it's all like happening at once. Anyway, after the bluegrass, we indulged in a little bit of acid, and then we found this piano that was just this old piano and started like going at it, and it was great crack. And then while we were as we were playing, this bunch of lads in GAA shirts came up and they were kind of getting into it and dancing. And then we finished. They were like, Jesus, at first I thought it was just shite, like nonsense, but then I realized you were going somewhere. And one guy asked us what level of piano it was. Then I wrote this little poem. So this is Bang Out of Tune, Electric Picnic 2023 with Brendan Duffin. After a quarter tab of acid, unhinged garble of bluegrass and techno, Our four hands make light work of this microtonal piano. Bust open with pummeling fists, the commonest of senses, begging the question, what level is this? Constantine, it would be nice if you listened to people instead of like interrupting and talking over things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that. Okay, so up next, please, can we have Patricia Walsh?
It's continuing music thread by Benjamin, but this is called Blighted by Song. Know by harmony, picking through works and days, seeking notice over the course of a day. The fresh paint on the counter counts the foliage. Food without dough, this adventure scathed. Finishing coffee slowly, leaving the station. Looking out onto the street, gaping at live stories, sauntering back to small milk and original. Nothing to blow the mind, if ever at all. Calmly seated next to technological endeavour. Criminal desire extenuated from the fort. A small community or continuity over there. An acolyte to abuse. Not advertising any scripts or underhand classes. Watching candles diminishing over an evening. Observing eyeball to eyeball and overt type. Loved at a distance, it will stay that way. Prospective rejection a cause not to celebrate. Reverting to type, a student worth desecrating. The corner curb betrays its stereotypes. Ripping to fashionistas covering losses. Surfer to the poor, handwriting believable. Lost, being sorry, being different, but have. Feeding on assets, being troublesome again. Ordering nutrition, turning on perpetuity. Not being the type to condescend on others. A purpose full of familiar like for like. A sisterly jibe bombards the venue forever. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to pivot online and we have Jeff Cottrell, please.
Thank you. So I don't remember if I've done this one here before. So if I have, congratulations, you're hearing it a second time. So this is a poem in which I have decided to take a proto-feminist approach to the Sistina format while examining the male gaze as depicted in the independent Palestinian cinema of the early 1970s, as seen through a prism of Bakhtinian dialogism and post-structural Marxist theory with respect. No, I'm just having it. This is about slugs. Baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs. Baby slugs crawling through the soil and dirt, searching for leaves and grass to feed on. Baby slugs hatching from their tiny eggs, poking out through the layers of debris. Baby slugs slithering over the moist gray rocks. Baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs. Baby slugs looking up at the dimming sky, seeing filthy images in the cloud patterns. Baby slugs marching through the park at noon, striking fancy poses for the tourists' cameras. Baby slugs making inappropriate passes at your significant other. Baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs. Baby slugs running around like savage maniacs, knocking over your grandfather's antiques. Baby slugs hunching over your study desk, finding new loopholes in your tax documents. Baby slugs wondering if a Motorhead reunion could work without Lemmy. Baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs. Baby slugs looking over the group bar tab, debating if the server deserves a 10% tip. Baby slugs talking too loud at the movies, kicking the back of your seat during the big reveal. Baby slugs screaming rude words at your child's kindergarten teacher. Baby slugs, baby slugs, Baby slugs. Baby slugs. Baby slugs planning a violent revolution, sparing only the people with the cleanest socks. Baby slugs plotting world domination, using an egg beater, a rooster, and 5 Twinkies. Baby slugs naming the galaxies after their favorite Belgian wrestlers. Baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs, baby slugs. Thank you. That was called Baby Slugs, in case you didn't figure it out.
Okay, so up next, we're back in the room again, and we're gonna have Will we have a minute? Will we have a minute while this? All right. Yeah, we'll just go ahead. So up next, we're gonna have Martin Delay. Where's Martin? Oh yeah, here he is. Big round of applause. Okay, Bula Bus, we're still here.
Right, folks. This is one I hope is dear to all your hearts. Is called Ovale. There exists a place in Cork that oozes charm and grace. When full to the brim, it swells within and becomes a magical place. They come from far and wide, armed to the teeth with pride, to be able to relay their stories. Sorry.
Very sorry.
We all want to listen to the poetry, not to you.
Yep. I want. Very sorry about this, man.
Aber.
Yeah, we can go again.
Yeah, we go ahead.
Go back in the room.
Thanks, folks. Ovale. There exists a place in Cork that oozes charm and grace. When full to the brim, it swells within and becomes a magical place. They come from far and wide, armed to the teeth with pride, to be able to relay their stories and find their poetic stride. Come one, come all to Paul's hallowed hall, and venture thoughts within. You'll be allowed to lift that cloud that seemed to follow you in. Sorry, yeah. Sorry. Suddenly you'll be released from the hassle of the city, transported to another view of an eclectic few, whose charm and you will win. The MC warmly welcomes you and makes you feel at home, and all the while you're mulling over your own special poem. First up, the 5-word challenge. We'll let those juices flow, but with 15 minutes on the clock, it'll test the best on show. A myriad of views exist and often will collide.
but no offence is taken as we sit there side by side. Then the special guests arrive and take us to places we've never been, through nooks and crannies we've never seen, feeding our imaginations, enchanting us with their observations. Some nights they almost keep us in suspended animation. So, sorry, I'll just. So spread the word of this wonderful world and bring more people in. Replenish this lock. We need more stock and future worlds to win. Sorry.
Thanks a million, Martin. Up next, can we please have Dean Brown?
Hello. I don't know if we've lost Don or not, but it was great to hear him read. He read for us when we were students about 10 years ago in UCC. It was great then, great tonight. I'm reading a poem, and I hate to be a person with a poem with a note in front of it, but I think this kind of covers the introduction of it. Don't worry, it's not too long. So the poem is called To Philosette. Philosette was a stray Parisian cat selected by scientists for the French space program. Known as C341, she survived the proposed suborbital mission, and on 18th of October 1963 became the only cat that has gone to space. 2 months later, she was euthanized so that an autopsy could be performed and her brain studied. The scientists later concluded that they had learned nothing of any use from this. She's desperate. It's great to hear that, Phil. Oh, to Philosette. The French did you dirty, Philosette. Scooped you up from the scrappy, unneutered boulevards where you'd spat at a cabal of horny toms, or sullied the white socks of your luscious, flea-ridden tucks, lapping with relish rancid leftovers in the back streets of bistros, letting the busboy scratch you behind the ear, or pinning, for fun, a butterfly under your paw, with the moon at the correct distance. An arrogant purpose attended your capture, not even your potent nose, your vigilant instinct for danger could have divined. Even now, I can just see your distressed shedding and the lit black of your eyes, as those moon men handle you dispassionately as a specimen upon which to experiment, implanting their electrodes, graphing your impulses. Oh, fuck them, Philosette. C341 is no name, and Felix misgendered you, love, and aboard the Veronique AG-1 rocket ship as the payload disarticulates, parachute or no, is no place for a cat. One like you, particularly lovely, particularly liable to be let filch a bit of the Gruyere, or a bristle with need for affection or feeding, to step blithely on the heads of sleepers, to nudge them awake. What can I say, Philosette? The moon is an ossuary, and its valentines have chilly ways. I'm glad those Frenchmen learned sweet fuck all when they studied your brain, Philosette. Could dream only you for a moment in space, weightless, and what you saw took with you.
My heart is broken for Philosette. It's so sad. Lovely story. Well, lovely poem. Okay, so actually, just to let you know, in case anyone's zipping off early, we're going to have a little soiree over in Mainz, some food, some drinks. So do stick around and know that that's ahead. But we're only halfway through the open mic now. We're going to go to Matt Mooney.
Yeah. My poem for this time of the night mightn't be too good for your dreams, but it's called Screams. Very short. So don't blink. I hear their sudden screams from faraway Shan Yunis, as if their voices carry here over oceans, hills, and fields. Some nights, out of the blue, the bloody children come. These innocents out of Gaza tap upon my window panes.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, back into the room. Next up, can we please have Karen Casey?
The children sit in the shed, 3 days in midwinter cold. Silky pups squint in the dark. Hooray, greets hazel gemstones. The woman waits weeks in the garden, attends an orange blossoming rose. They drink in the air, young daughters, slits of light unravel cat's eyes. The witch squats in the foxgloves. It has taken her centuries to get here. She drinks in the world with her iris wide open, expecting nothing.
Thanks, Karen. And up next, can we please have Seamus Harrington?
Thanks, Jim. Phone trouble again, and computer trouble again. So resorting to paper. Yeah. The only good thing, I do know that I've reached the end of this. And apologies, at the winter warmer, my computer crashed just at the end, just before Philip. Sorry, Philip. It was all caused by free downloads. What they've done, free downloads. They've altered my application, activated my archives, booted my browser, buried my broadband, bookmarked my bits, connected my console, captured my cartridge, clicked on my cookies, commandeered my cursor, dropped down my devices, delved in my downloads, documented my data, dragged out my driver, displayed my desktop, erased my errata, encrypted my emails, fancied my favorites, fumbled my floppy. What? Fragmented my fonts, firewalled my folders, gorged on my gigabytes, grouped up my game ports, hijacked my hardware, hacked at my hyperlink, hung out my homepage, hosted my hard drive, inserted my icon, interrupted my intranet, jellied my Java, jumpered my jack plug, keystroked my kernel, kneaded my knickknacks, lobbed on my laptop, labeled my language, massaged my poor mouse, merged with my modem, minimized my monitor, muddled my memory, memorized my moniker, negated my network, networked my nonsense, opened my outputs, outsourced my options, plagiarized my progress, my process, programmed my printer, punctured my pop-ups, partitioned my password, queried my QWERTY, questioned my query, quoted my quandary, raided my right click, recycled my registry, selected my software, sampled my startup, serviced my smart drive, scheduled my scanner, sentenced my shortcuts, trespassed my trackball, trojaned my toolbar, uncovered my uploads, underlined my undo, violated my version, vetoed my vectors, vented my volumes, wormed in my window, winkled my wizard, X-rated my excerpts, yawned at my yarns, zeroed my zip drive. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Seamus. Okay, next, can we please have Antonio? How do you say your surname? Antonio Di Mare. Thank you. Like the sea.
Yes. Thank you, Jim. And before starting, I want to thank you, Paul, for this amazing year. Since this is the last appointment for 2023 before the new year, and I want to say publicly thank you for providing us this amazing space. It's important, and also for delivering this beautiful, amazing winter warmer. So well done to you. This is precious. Is precious, and giving us space for the words. It's really special. So thanks very much. My poem is inspired by the seagulls in the Dublin airport. I've started flying a lot now from Dublin. It's I find unique the fact that in Dublin airport, possibly it's the only airport where you can truly hear seagulls, and it's pretty unique as experience. The seagulls at Dublin airport. Feeling dispossessed, the mind has been compressed. Turn on the light. What time is it, your flight? The seagulls in Dublin airport give the warmest welcome. We shall overcome. The glory is pointing towards northwest, like the most beautiful penalty scored by George Best. Flying over the Aran Islands and Inishmore, like the pines of Guinness, made of more. Nothing compares to you. According to the latest news in Gaza, survivors to the bombs don't have anything to eat. How about you? Green flesh burned in the fire as the songs of Johnny Cash. Invisible air, territory open air. Clouds are witnesses, sometimes kisses, of the blue imaginary, closing the eyes and painting the scenery. Thank you. Merry Christmas to all. Thanks.
All right. Up next, can we please have Alexandra Toole?
So back when I wrote this poem, I was feeling like very anxious and stressed about like college and like finding placement and things like that. And the idea for this poem, like some bits of the ideas for this poem and the name of this poem came from a specific scene from my favorite series, which is called Teen Wolf. And in this scene, the mother is talking to the son because the son recently lost his first love, so his ex-girlfriend, and she was the one that kind of calmed her down when like he was feeling very stressed and, you know, like feeling very down about himself. And now he kind of lost that like help. So then the mother says to the son, find your own anchor. So that kind of stayed with me, that sentence. So my poem is called Anchor. I feel so trapped. Where do I go? Where can I go? Someone please help me. Tell me. Just tell me where's my escape. I need it now. I feel like I'm in a cave. Where's the exit? I see no light here. The darkness has always been my friend. It has always soothed me, except for now, at this moment. The darkness is no friend of mine, but my enemy. My mind is like a jungle, full of the roars and screams of the wilderness. I need it to shut up. I crave silence and I crave peace. I want my mind to feel numb, but the wilderness speaks, even in the darkness. Its whispers feeding my growing anxiety, a faceless shadow, following me wherever I go. Leave me alone, please. Just leave me. I need an anchor, something that pulls me back to reality, to forget about the past and the threats of the future. After years of searching, I have failed to find my anchor, until recently. My anchor is love, the love of a dark angel who walked into my life and said, I am here. A guardian angel who walked me through the dark cave. His pure heart shined a light onto my dark path. I could see again. I could feel again. My anchor saved me, but who will save him? I will, for I am his anchor, and he is mine. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks so much, Alexandra. Okay, up next we have James O'Driscoll, who is first time reading, by the way. Big round of applause.
So this is terrifying. Yeah, it's my first time reading for anyone. So yeah, okay. So this is called My Blue Jay. Sometimes my bird cage rattles as the blue jay sings the songs of all its battles, ending with the flap of its wings. It marches around its cage, commanding strict respect, with this piercing song that manages to project. At night the bird haunts me. Its chirp heard from the furthest corner. My 10-foot quiet fails, for my bird has its own choir. I bought a cat on Wednesday, hoping it would save me. But I found it died Sunday, because I shop cheaply. As I try to shut this bird up, I find my attempts run thin. Quick fast fails without backup, attempts that could never win. An old cat, a busted gun, a holy net and prayer, a sweet dog, too much fun, the power of my stare. My blue jay still haunts me, its music of repetitive pain, yet I know it truly loves me, and it wants me to stay sane. Thank you.
Great, thanks, James. Ok. Maintenant, je vous présente Cédric Piquante.
If I ever forget I'm French, I will call you. This one is actually inspired by 10 years, actually almost 11 years in Cork and almost as much in Ovale. So it's very much inspired by the experience that Po has allowed us to have here, and I hope it continues as long as possible. So I guess you're on duty as long as you can. And it's called Ikebana. as per the Japanese flower arrangement. Ikebana. Those words were grown in their field, slowly absorbing the suns of community, the rains of stories, the storm of histories. Admire the blossoms from salty downpour, the radiances of joy piercing through the blankets of sorrows. Watch the heads colored by the riches hidden in the bedrock of sweat and blood, sweetened by the hope aired by life and its countless waking dreams. Chromatic parterres tell tales in nuances borrowed from semantics. They will feed back the soil as their petals can no longer sustain the breezes of time. Let me sit under the contextual canopy. I will compose for you my best arrangement yet. Buttercupped, bared out, with astute lips that I cut in stanzas, standing out in a bouquet. I will leave this here for you to see, hopeful that you may find elegance in its simplicity.
Thank you, Cedric. Okay. Next up, can we have Sue Blue?
Thanks very much. So I dug out a piece that I wrote at Ovale 2 years ago. It was a hybrid Ovale, and it was a 5-word challenge. The 5 words were devil, carry, love, wrinkles, and Christmas. So I called it Beyond the Lights of Christmas, or Fuck the Devil. The devil has carried his cross through yet another year, burdened by the love we share, a shield against his hell. Yet he has put his hoof down right beside our hearth and stomped to break our hearts as he ripped our dearest out. Thus, life itself has deepened the wrinkles in our faces and sharpened the periwinkles of our fractal ears to the truth of itself. Death is the journey beyond the lights of Christmas, the new day dawning in the darkness of every year. It takes our bonds into the bliss of the great divine because of the love we share.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, we're going to jump online real quick. Can we please have Massimo?
Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Who is an artist, an artist, an artist? I am an artist, an artist, an artist. This world's full of artworks and art forms and artists. Could you be an artist? Are you too an artist? If you have a mind and a body to start with, then you have what anyone needs to make art with. But not making art does not mean you are artless, because life isn't art, so all living are artists. I used to have a pencil and a paintbrush, but these days I don't pencil, I don't paint much. Like a keyboard with keys, I don't play much. The change is in me, but the keys have the same touch. Everyone has something that they made once, a little piece of themselves that they've saved us. We're so different, but then sometimes a way comes where we show each other different ways we're the same ones. All are born with a gift none can hand them, a passion, a talent that no one can grant them. Whether we scatter these seeds or we plant them, fill them with love so that love can expand them. And if you can dance, do a dance then. If you can't dance, groove where you stand then. If he can sing and she can play, they can jam then. If we can be the audience and help understand them. If you can help do something beautiful, then it's not only fun, but it's dutiful. You may be visual, theatrical, or musical, or maybe just hilarious. All gifts are usable. Your gift may be unusual, but if it's suited well to others, then it's suitable. If it doesn't suit others, thank them that they're truthful. But if it moves even one person, it is useful. So create, so create, so create. But first make it good, that is better than just great. An artist may not feed you better than the bread you ate, but gave you instead bread they made from your empty plate. It's not the magic, but the love that should resonate, that we would do this work to bring you joy in your present state. An artist's wish to give light can be a heavy weight, but maybe we became artists because we love to elevate. Or maybe I just do this for my sanity, just to dance before there's anyone to dance with me. Being sane doesn't mean afraid of fantasy, where I can be who I am, but play with what cannot be. But still I stand where reality can stand with me. Hold hands in dreams, but awake, both my hands are free. An artist is such a deep lover of humanity that even in our solitude, we draw where human hands could be. Because there is always proof of love wherever art is. Because art is only where more than one human heart is. There is always proof of unity wherever art is. Because everyone has loved something made by an artist. So if you have a mind and a body to start with, then you have what anyone needs to make art with. But not making art does not mean you are artless, because life is an art. So all living are artists. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Massimo. Okay, next up, can we please have Jason J. Fisher?
I'll go quick, but I just want to say, Massimo, like your first poem, I want your lyrics. Your second one's amazing. Hit me up, man. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries, man. I love your stuff. Come to Ireland. This is called Art Scars. It's long been observed and all would concur. I've got away with words, but I got away from words. And I got away with things I'd rather not say with words. When it comes to her and sorry, make sure you say it first. And the distance between us the last 3 years stretches beyond measure. And I could be like, it's all whatever, whatever, whatever. I've never been better. I'm the oh so clever, unfettered man of letters who finally got it together. But I could never get it together while we were together. And I think I'll think about that forever. Because I've spent forever trying to pick it all apart. Amidst all the half measures and false starts. And there's not an inch of thin skin left. It's all scars. But every time our eyes met, it was all sparks. And now we're so far apart that lately my safeguard has been to make art, create art, break art, rip apart art with sharp art shards settling into my soft and my hard parts. And how do I start to bring it to a close so I don't continue to miss you. But it's like you've settled into my heart and my bones, speaking through my sinew and tissue. And I suppose I'm just composed of striated muscle, the last of my jangled nerves and whole rolls of adipose. Because I'm approaching 40 years old, with so many slivers of silver and only a few gold goals. I tried to read all of your letters, but I had to stop. Know that every letter mattered, and not one was for naught. And I've wanted to write you, but maybe you moved on. Maybe you're gone. Maybe my letter would be something you'd hate. Or my letter would arrive 2 tenants too late, 2 tenants Zeus spate, and I try to save every true tenant you gave as I remake and remake and remake and remake. And we all make mistakes, but we get to remake and remake and remake. And I was wrong. I could have gazed upon your face as the sunlight danced across it for all of my days. I could have.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, next up, can we have the 5-word challenge winner, Mr. Philip Spillane?
Before I read my poems, I want to say a big Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the family of Vale. And thank you, Paul, and Jim, and Alexandra, and our guest poet, Don, for providing a great way to close 2023 here. Thank you very much. Real thank you from the bottom of my heart. This place is like a family. So, let's switch notes. This is try and work out what this is about. Sorry for the broken bones. Long ago. Here's some gold, oil, value with tears. Pick the best identities, the weighted tombs, lands, flags and colors, songs with forgotten lyrics. Anything can be yours. And what about the others? The other names? Like who was here first? Who was here first? If we crack an egg, it doesn't hold the yolk. If we crack a border, does it fix a war? Sorry about the broken bones, a mess of hatred and love. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks very much, Phil. Okay, and our final reader of the night is Rosie O'Regan.
Yeah, it's Christmas. So I have a small angry poem. You can insert the red nose. Feminisant, a nippleless tit, capitalist whore, Barbie.
How dare you say that about Barbie?
We can fight live if you like.
We're going to fight live. We'll be fighting live in Mainz. All right. So that brings us to the end of our Long Valley part. That was the end of our Long Valley part. A huge round of applause once again to our guest poet, Don Paterson. It was amazing. And to everybody online on Zoom, everybody in the room, and me, and Paul. And everyone. Oh, it's weird seeing the back of my head. Bye, everyone. Lovely to see you.
Well done. Well done.
It's like my creepy wave. All right. Okay. Thank you. You still can't see it.